what I'm going to show you and just put it into that order. I think the real thing to remember here is there are a lot of different things that you can do online. There's so many different strategies, but there's going to be typically 1 or 2 things that you should be focusing on at any one point in time. The things that are going to get you the best return on investment for your time. Things that you need to, if you do that, it's going to have long-term effect. I'm all about do work once, get paid forever about it. That's why I like info products and things like this. Like, I'm not going to come here and run a workshop unless I can record it, and then I can either sell this as an info product later or give it to clients as an upsell bonus or something like that. So it's all about getting more out of what it is that you've already got. So I'll show you how to create that. So the last bit of the story part before we really start to get into the strategy is making sure that you are using the right strategy. So I went and saw this guy. It'd been on my list to do for a very long time. His name's Richard Bandler, and he started a thing called NLP along with, he was co-founder with a guy called Grinder. I'd heard about it through, like, a few people had mentioned it. Like, I mean, Tony Robbins has got his whole thing where he calls it NAC, Neuro-Associative Conditioning, where it's kind of like a slightly rebranded version of much of the same thing. But it was all about, I'd heard about this guy, and I always like to go to the source. Whenever I'm learning about something, I like to go to the source of the information and get it there. So very much like you, I invest in my own education. You know, I flew over to the States for a week. You know, had it was like $5,000 plus all the accommodation and flights and all that type of stuff. And it was probably one of the best investments that I made. I remember seeing this guy and heard a lot of different stories about him. But one of the things, the real takeaways that I want to give for you is he talked about this idea of strategies. Like, I mean, we're all processing the world in the same way. Like, we're all getting the same stimuli coming in, but it's the way that you process that stimuli and then react on it that's going to determine, you know, what you do as a result of what happens to you. And he talked about this idea of the difference. He started off saying the difference between good spellers and bad spellers. So if you think back to, you know, school and whether or not you were a good speller or a bad speller when you're at school, and he did an analysis of these kids and asked them, what is it, when he asked the good kids, you know, when you're spelling a word, what is it that you see? Like, what actually happens? And then he asked kids who couldn't spell very well, what is it that you're seeing? And he found out the kids who weren't spelling very well, what they were doing is they were sounding out the words. So they were going k, at, t, okay, cat. That's how I spell it. Now that works well for words that aren't very complex. But if you look at much more complex words, once you try and start to sound it out, you're going to have trouble. And then he went to these kids who were spelling just, you know, they were knocking the words over, and he asked them, what happens for you? What's your experience? And they said, oh, it's different for us. They said, I visualise the words. I see the words about this high. They're in front of my eyes. They can spell the word just as easy forwards as they can backwards, because all they're doing is reading out the letters. So it's this idea of just the way that you're interpreting it and the model of the world that you have in your head is determining your results. So taking this idea and this strategy, he then went to Olympic athletes because he was employed by the US military to help them shoot better. So he was doing some training for some of the soldiers. So he went to the Olympic shooters and asked them, how do you like to explain the experience for me of how you shoot and how you can shoot so well and on target and get it every time. And the Olympic person said, well, I imagine that there's a little laser on the top of my gun. So he's got his gun or his rifle. There wasn't a laser there, but he imagined this laser. And he said, all I do is I'll line up the dot on what it is that I want to shoot, and then I pull the trigger. So he taught that strategy to the US soldiers, and then almost instantly overnight, they just started shooting better. Their accuracy went up through the roof. And it was just through this one idea, this concept of using the right strategy. So there might be a chance that the way that you're building business up until now, you might be using the wrong strategy. You might have been doing different methods. It's not that you weren't giving your all, or you were putting your heart and soul into it and you're just giving everything that you could, but maybe you weren't approaching it in the right light. maybe there's a few finer distinctions, and maybe I can show you how to line the site up and make sure that you've got the little right dot. And then if you've got the right strategy, then your business might just come alive. So really that's what today's all about, making sure that you start to get the right strategies that could grow your business a lot quicker.